Hello everyone, and welcome to another showcase video where we try to apply what we learn in the Darktable from A to Z series. My name is Hal, and today we'll be using this photo that I made a few years ago on an island on the north of the Netherlands. I haven't tried this edit before, I haven't practiced it, so the point is to learn from the thought process and see what I do right as well as what I do wrong. This photo was done in the evening. As you can see, the sun was setting, and since I was on a walk, I didn't have a tripod, you can tell that the foreground is way underexposed compared to the sky, so it will take some work to fix it. Let's start by checking the white balance. I think it's okay, don't need to touch that. I'll change the demosaic to a maze. Next step is crop and rotate. Let's fix the horizon and then see if we want another crop. Yeah. I'd like to keep the road in this part, and this got a little bit of the sky. Let's have a look at the edges. Anything else that needs to be trimmed? No, I think that will do. Let's see what we can do with the exposure module next. Well, it's handy to toggle the over-under exposed indication while working on exposure, just to see if you still have lots of overexposed or underexposed areas. You can see that as well in the histogram. Let's try to minimize. Oh, that's too much. I'll pull it back. Okay, that looks like a good starting point. You notice that I don't use the base curve module. I don't particularly like it. I think the results are always exaggerated, and I prefer to work from a neutral starting point, but it's up to you. So next we'll go into the Tone Equalizer module, which is the main reason of doing this exercise, since we've just finished the Tone Equalizer video in the Darktable from A to Z series. Todd left a comment recommending the Relight preset, so let's try that first. Relight fill-in. Wow, that's not bad. The highlights are a little bit overexposed, but of course we can fix that. And the shadows are brightened. I would like to brighten them a bit more as well, but this photo had an extreme difference between the dark areas and the bright areas, so can imagine that a generic preset would not fix it all completely, but it's a good starting point. However, since we want to delve into how to use the Tone Equalizer module, I'm going to reset it and try to do everything manually. First, I'm going to try and see how far I can get with a simple tab. So without touching the exposure mask, I will just scroll over the areas that I want to change. So, well, first the shadows. As you can tell by the value that's over the mouse, it's in the 4 to 5 area, so I can either use the mouse wheel to change it, or I could go to the module and change it manually. I'll continue using the mouse wheel. Again, you scroll away from you to brighten and towards you to darken. Okay, that's quite enough for now. Actually, that's a bit too much here. And I can lighten this a bit. Then go back here and a bit further. Okay, that's usable actually. Could use the contrast, brightest, saturation maybe to fix it a bit more if I wanted, especially the road, that I would rather have it a bit more bright, but that's quite a good result. Let's see the difference again. Wow, quite good, huh? Alright, let's see if we can do better if we use the advanced tab. So the first thing to look at is the histogram here. Remember, this is a histogram of the mask that the module uses to separate the image into 9 different areas based on their luminosity. So this is not the histogram of the image itself, which you can see here. You can tell that they're different. The width of the histogram explains why the simple tab already did such a great job. It's already by default quite wide, which means that we are able to affect the areas distinctly from each other or fine-tune them. But let's see if we can maybe ameliorate it. Not sure if that's even possible. That's actually quite good already. And you can see that here in the masking tab, this bar here is 80% of the mask. So you can already have a representation of how big the histogram is just by looking at it, and it's quite good already. Alright, so first the luminance estimator, and here you have 7 different algorithms. We'll try to go through them one by one and see how that affects the bar here. How about we display the exposure mask maybe as well. I'll use the down button. I see them changing the location of the bar, which affects where the histogram is located or where the center of the histogram would be located. But I don't see a huge difference in the width of the bar. Okay, well, I'll keep it on this one as it's quite wide and centered. Let's remove this. Okay, next the preserve details. Don't need to change that one. The guided filter is very good for recovering shadows, as it keeps as much as possible of the details on the local contrast and the shadows, so I'll leave it at that. Then filter diffusion, which is the number of passes the filter will be applied to the mask. So the higher, or at least the more numbers of passes, the smoother the edges. Well, so the edges between the areas will be diffused. Well, I'm just gonna keep it at 1. The smoothing diameter. Of course, refer to the video if you want a more in-depth explanation of what all of these settings are for. Let's see. This one affects the how smooth is the changes between light and shadows within the areas. As you can see, pulling it to the left produces some discrete differences between lights and shadows in the same area, and pulling it to the right makes the transitions more smooth. This one is for feathering the edges on the zones. Okay. Looks okay. Then I'm going to go back to the max exposure compensation to try to center the histogram in the middle, which is, it's almost there. I think I need to do a lot. And then the mask contrast compensation to change the width of the mask, just to try to make it as wide as possible. Remember, if we pull it too far, you're gonna get those orange areas here, which means that you've pushed the histogram off the edge of the screen, so it will be already out of your out of the range that you can change. We're gonna put it back. Okay, looks good. Now I'm gonna pull that back towards the middle. Right, let's see how that affects our histogram. Looks okay. Now, let's see. Going to try to brighten the shadows again. And darken the sky. Brighten the shadows a bit more. That's quite a lot. So you can see some there are artifacts already here, as you can see. Now let's see, can we fix that by changing the mask? Feathering maybe? Yeah, see? Because we had such sharp edges between the areas, as you can see, if I pull it back, you can see the artifacts here in the sky. And if I pull it a little bit to the left to feather the edges between the areas, the artifacts disappear and we have a smoother transition. That looks good. Okay, go back here. This is already dark enough, and yeah, that looks okay. Let's see, what did we do now? Between this and this one. Looks okay. Yeah. I like this dark area here. It gives a little bit of a framing and leads the eye towards the middle instead of the front of the photo. I wonder if it's worth it to create another instance of the Tone Equalizer and try to apply it only to the road, well, or a little bit here, just to change or brighten it a little bit more. Let's try that. So I'm going to create a mask. Remember, this is a mask for the module, as in that's the mask that you create to limit the effect of the module to certain areas of your image. It's different from the mask that the module itself creates to divide the image into 9 different areas to work on. Alright, let's use the brush. Yeah. We'll see how that goes. Okay. Well, I'm gonna stick to the simple tab and see what would that do. Let's feather our mask so that the transition between the areas affected and non-affected is not as harsh as it was. Yeah, that works. A bit more. Nice. The biggest advantage of the Tone Equalizer module compared to other modules that can affect the contrast or the brightness of an image is that it actually conserves the local contrast. So you keep more of the details in the areas that you're changing. Let's see, how are we until now? Start with it from here. Okay, so far so good. So what next? Let's try creating another instance to work on the horizon. So let's do another drone mask. An ellipse works great for horizons, I find. That's a good starting point. And again, I'm just going to stick with the simple tab. Too bright. Actually, no. Let's reset that. I'm going to go into the advanced tab and just increase the contrast a bit. The same as I would do with a tone curve, but just using the Tone Equalizer module. How would that work? Let's feather the mask again. A bit more. Okay. Let's have a look at what it did. Not much. Well, say not much. You can see that there's more light here, and I like that. It gives the eye something to see once it follows this road. Do I need to make it a little brighter, or is that just now? Let's see. Yeah, I think that works. Gonna have to fix the colors a bit. I still don't think that this is bright enough. Could be changed maybe with the brightness modules, or I can try it again with another Tone Equalizer. No, I'd like to see these poles as well a bit more. Let's see, which one was it? That was the road. No, I think that was too bright. If I extend it to this area, there will be a huge difference between the part of the grass that's in this module and the part that isn't. I'm not gonna do that. Alright, let's go back to the contrast brightness saturation module and see what we can do with it, and then if needed we'll get back to the Tone Equalizer again. Okay, I'd like some saturation. Okay, more brightness, not that much. Do we need to add some contrast here? You know what? No, I'm not gonna add contrast here. I'm gonna add contrast with another Tone Equalizer module after I finish with this. I think this is getting better now. Yeah. More brightness. Yeah, I can see the poles now more distinctly. I don't want to change the mood of the image too much either, because it was the evening, and yeah, if it becomes too bright, then the whole effect of the setting sun would just disappear. I'd like a bit more red maybe here, but I think this is green enough already. So let's try adding another instance, and if I did name the masks, I would be able to select them. I can see I've only used one ellipse, so wow, what is that? Not sure. Okay, that's much better. Probably a bug. Okay, now we have it back again, the same ellipse that we used for brightening the sky a bit. Gonna use it here to add some saturation. Of course, there are better modules to do all of this, especially adding saturation and changing one single color in the photo. But I'm using those because, as we've already discussed, we're only going to be using modules that we've already talked about. Okay, let's hide the mask and see if that made any. Yeah, there's a bit more red. Don't want to add too much because the sky wasn't that red, so let's keep it a bit close to reality. Let's feather it. Okay, looks fine. Now I'm going to take the first Tone Equalizer module and I'm going to duplicate it. This way we'll get the mask that we created in the first one. Of course, I don't want any of those changes, so we're going to double click here to reset the actual changes that we did to it, but the mask is still there. And I'm just going to use this to add some contrast to the whole image. Is that too much? No, I think that's, well, maybe a bit less in the shadows. Anything else? Do we need to have a look at the highlight reconstruction? Did we reconstruct any highlights? Let's put them in LCH and see if that makes any difference. I don't think that there were a lot of highlights that were reconstructed. Wow, so many Tone Equalizer modules are really taxing my system. It's really not that old, but I can see the effect. Well, it does not help that I don't have hardware acceleration enabled. Maybe I should work on that. It's just that I did not bother to put it in this virtual machine. Maybe I'll fix that for before the next video. Let's compress the history stack. And here we have the final result next to the original image. Well, that's it for this video. I hope that you liked it. If you have any questions, requests, or corrections, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.